What is going on, everybody? We are back with episode 3 of Combat Weekly, your source for all West Coast MMA and combat sports news. I am one of your hosts, Dylan Nossman, DSK Combat Sports, and as always with me, my boy MLH Media, Michael Hernandez, fresh off Fight Culture California Award, if I'm not mistaken, this past weekend, or last week, and yeah, we're happy to be back. First of all, how are you doing, man? Post 324, post Tuff N Uff. We got some stuff to talk about. It's been a pretty good week, I say.
MMA break is finally over, Dylan Austin. How do you feel?
Yeah.
You know I had to throw it up. Shout out to our guy Zach Kaufman.
Yeah.
But no, it's been amazing, man. I want to thank everybody for obviously voting me for that award. That was absolutely awesome. For me, I don't really like to get too much into I'm the best or I'm I've never been
nobody
like
said
that.
you were the best, dude. I just said you won an award. Like, come on.
You're like, hey, you're like, you just won in California, dude.
Yeah.
You suck overall.
Well,
but no,
over in Arizona, there are no even awards to be handed out. So I can just do you know how in college football back away when there was no national titles, so teams just claimed oh, we're the national champions. That's just me in
exactly.
Arizona.
That's you in Arizona, dude.
I am the best journalist. Nobody can say shit because there is nobody to say I am or I'm not. So there we go.
I think
self-prescribed.
Rush may have an argument for pound best journalist in Arizona.
Well, he can walk down the hallway and fight me for it. So I'm just kidding.
3x3 rounds only, elbow pads, kick, shin guards, all the good stuff. But no, it was definitely an honor to go ahead and get that award. But yeah, no, been really good. It's been busy last couple weeks, but very excited for what 2026 is looking to go ahead and offer. And I mean, I feel like we already kicked off the year in 2026 with such an amazing, Tuff N Uff was amazing to kick off the year. 559 fights. Obviously, I was out there in the beginning of the year. We already talked about that. That was such an interesting card to go ahead and see break down. We obviously had UFC 324, first card on Paramount this past weekend. So I feel like we had MMA kind of gone for it was gone for 3 days. Everybody was overreacting, saying it was gone for 2 weeks. But
there's been events the whole time, man. If you know
it's fun, it's so funny.
You know where to look.
Funny.
There's always MMA. There's always MMA.
It's like football, there's Arena League. There's always something, man.
Well, it's funny because I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, continue.
I was playing the fights at my gym that I trained at the other night, and it was on Thursday, so Tuff N Uff was playing. And one of my guys who I trained with, he was walking out and he's like, dude, there's live fights right now. I'm like, brother, every Thursday through Sunday, if you know where to look, there are live fights. And I'm like, dude, just text me any day and I will tell you when the next fight card is and how to watch it. And you'll have fights to watch all the time. Because again, like you said, there's always something, man. So
you gotta start charging people, dude. You're gonna be the plug for links, dude.
Well, shout out to my plug, Grabaka Hitman. Caposa. I mean, he's the legend. His he sends an email list for. By the way, anybody out there who wants to know what the heck's going on every week in MMA, go to grabakahitman.com, sign up for his email list, and you will get a literal full schedule emailed to you every week of every MMA event. It's the best. So, a little unsolicited recommendation right there. But
game is game right there, man. Game is game. Love it. But it's Tuff N Uff 154 that went down this past weekend, or 151, I believe. Sorry, my
151, yeah.
Zaganov. I mean, an absolutely amazing card over there. Dude, I feel like it was just back to dude, from the feature fight on, it was just absolutely insane. Everett's 4-second KO. That was probably, if not one of the most electric knockouts I've seen the past year. The most electric. That was absolute insanity. I'm still I watched it last night and I'm still talking about it. I was literally telling my brother this morning. I'm like, dude, watch this knockout. This thing's insane.
It's nuts. And Sal Everett is a really cool story. I'm not sure how much you know about his whole backstory and everything, but
I heard a little bit on the broadcast about his father being a boxer and then Dana White kind of heavily investing into his career and stuff like that. So
they alluded to it a bit, but not only is Dana White heavily invested in his career, but Sal Everett has worked for Dana White personally since he was about 14 or 15 years old. He was Dana White's personal, basically, message and message boy around Vegas. So, as you know, rich people, powerful people, they don't always like to send their stuff through the mail or through calls or texts, or they have packages or something to deliver to somebody else, checks, whatever. and they want somebody they can trust to hand deliver it to make sure nothing goes wrong. So Sal Everett was that guy for
Dana White. Basically John Wick is
literally
no, is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, pretty much John Wick in MMA. But and obviously as you heard on the broadcast, his dad was a boxer, his family has this combat sports history, so he obviously had been training and he was fighting as an amateur, and he still works for the UFC to this day. I think his role has now changed and he has some other responsibilities and stuff, but he's almost like Dana White's almost referred to him as like a stepson. Like he really feels like he is a family member to an extent. So not only has he supported his career somewhat financially and also just, as a friend and kind of, mentor, but they will put him in the UFC when the time is coming. And as you can say, or as you can see, this is not some nepotism bullshit. This guy is a fucking stud. I've watched his whole career from amateurs all the way up through pros. He's been doing this type of shit the entire time. So he deserves it. I'm not trying to like frame this story and be like, oh, that's why he's getting these opportunities, because that's not the case. He just happens to have the perfect path laid out for him, and then he's executing every step of the way. Because again, now he's 3-0 as a pro. I think he's had 3 pro wins in less than 12 months. And we'll probably see him on the Contender Series, probably not this year, but probably by the next year,
I think the real question that we all got to ask is, did he know, speaking on the 151 kind of timeline, did he know if UFC 151 was going to get canceled when John Jones and Dan Hendo were going to fight?
That guy has probably known some shit that we could.
That guy's probably known some stuff, right?
Yeah, if you want to see a UFC MMA insider, Sal Everett probably has the deets. But anyway, still, what a unique story though, and what a cool moment for him to obviously
officially the fastest knockout in MMA history now, right? No.
Luis, is it Luis Hernandez? I think his name is. He had a 1 second head kick knockout at Titan FC. And he's also the same guy who Sean Strickland tried to fight, I believe, at Tuff N Uff as well. Do you remember that when Sean Strickland?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that is the same guy who scored the fastest recognized knockout in MMA history.
Wow. Shout out to my guy Steve Ramirez. He's over here in the Central Valley. I believe he's also kind of tied in there. I believe his is 3 seconds. 3 seconds or 4 seconds, yes. Somewhere around that range, 3 to 4 seconds. David Goldenberg, though, what did you think about his call out? Obviously, a lot of people were kind of shitting on him online for his performance and for the whole calling of Dana White. And I know you were definitely somebody that was watching that and probably like, oh, a little wince. What was your kind of reaction to that?
So David Goldenberg is another guy who I am actually a pretty big fan of, mostly because I've watched his entire career unfold. So he started fighting for Tuff N Uff a couple of years ago. He went 6-0 as an amateur. He had some awesome knockouts. He had some really dominant performances. Like a genuinely fun fighter to watch. And actually, he was almost booked to fight my teammate Jake Armenta at Apex for a kickboxing belt, believe it or not. So I almost commentated one of his fights when he made his switch from MMA to kickboxing briefly. And so again, I've known of the guy for a while. He's always been quite an exciting fighter. Even his first pro fight was a lot better than this one. And this fight sucked, man. I'm not going to pull any punches. This was a terrible performance. It's just a weird move, man. Like, what is he trying to accomplish with that? It was kind of funny him not remembering like Dana's name and stuff, and like Donnie, whatever this guy's name.
That part I did laugh at. The whole like insulting him though, and like going out. I'm like, bro, what does that gain you in a job position? That's that's like when your homie's trying to spit game at the girl, and he's like, hey, that dress looks ugly as shit on you or something. You know, the girl's gonna slap
hey, don't say that shit. Yeah, come on. So yeah, I don't know, man. That was a weird one. Can't lie.
Weird game, but you can't hate on the player, man. You just gotta hate on the way that he's
trying to nag your future boss and see what happens. Like
Spinal Swindell also had an amazing performance over there at 145. I believe it was like a catch weight bout. She made her official mixed martial arts debut. She looked absolutely. I think Dana White also commented on it as well. I'm not trying to rag on the whole Dana White chain, but if you're a gal making her MMA debut at 145, and Dana White's making some comments saying in regards to how successful you were. I think you got to put that as a little feather into your own cap, and definitely was a great performance against Miranda Barber. It's somebody that had 7 bouts of professional MMA experience before Smiler had even made her professional debut. So I think that's quite the, like how I said, quite the feather to put in your cap.
Well, I am definitely impressed that she went out there and beat a girl who had a lot more experience and definitely, got the finish. I am going to just say I was not super impressed. I think there was some significant things that she needs to work on. Obviously, this is just her first MMA fight. She's coming from a completely different sport, but she looked slow. She looked even compared to her Muay Thai career, in which she's looked very explosive. She did not look quite how I expected her to look striking wise in the cage. Obviously, the clinch is where she dominates. She's got great knees. She ended up finding that position. She found the finish. But again, I think she needs, again, obviously she needs more time. She's 1-0 now, very young in her career, but there's that gap between being a Muay Thai fighter in MMA and being an MMA fighter. And I think she does have a lot of steps she needs to take before she.
I feel the flows are just so much different.
It is absolutely the pacing, the distance,
it's just so much different.
The distance, the willingness to absorb damage. I mean, so much of Muay Thai is literally like, you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you, and then we're going to hit each other back.
That's what I try and tell people. I'm like, dude, it's so much of it's kind of like the way I always make comparisons for MMA and like somebody like fighting Muay Thai. Fighting Muay Thai is like somebody that's trying to be a rapper. Like they're trying to find the beat, they're trying to find their flow, they're trying to find their rhythm, they're trying to find their cadence to where like, okay, cool, I can put this beat, I can make this rap. Being MMA is like being a rapper, but your name is like Blueface or like Lefty Gunplay or like one of these rappers that just has no flow. Like you're just going in there and like there's no real step to your game, like some guys in MMA definitely have really clean striking, whatever, but it's like, it's kind of unorthodox because in a fight, you really can't be like, as I guess you would say, like cookie cutter as you would want to be, because the guys across from you, he's gonna well, do that all day. He's, what I'm saying? So
to further your analogy, Muay Thai is almost like a rap battle where you're trading bar for bar, and MMA is like a freestyle where you have to come up.
There we go. Yeah, that's a way better comparison.
Yeah, you got to kind of think on the fly. You got to make adjustments quicker. You got to do things versus Muay Thai. You have what you're good at. You have what you're set at, and you're just going to be trading that with your opponent, trying to be the last person to basically put your stamp on the exchange. And again, in MMA, there's too much risk to just sit there and trade strikes. There's too much risk to get taken down. There's too much risk to get knocked out by 4-ounce gloves or a crazy strike because you're in a different position, And so there are so many differences to the sports that I'm never going to say, oh, she sucks because she didn't perform like she does in Muay Thai. But I was expecting just a bit more. And I think, just to put it out there, she's probably lucky she didn't face somebody like Zarina Turi, a 5-2 fighter with a lot of experience against high-level opponents like Joy Pendel and, these other fighters, because I think that might have been a bit too high of a step up at that point. So I think it's good that Smilla maybe got an opponent like Granger, who's a little bit,
Was that originally the matchup with Zarina and Smila?
She was supposed to face Zarina at the last Tough N Uff card, but Zarina was not cleared by the Nevada State Athletic Commission due to an eye injury. So that fight got canceled the day before the fight happened. So again, going into that fight, I still favored Smilla, but after watching her actually fight in a cage in MMA, I'm like, that might have been a much, much tougher bout for her against a fighter who's 5-2, a lot more experience. Yeah. So again, very impressed. I think she has a bright future, but as I said, I think her timing, her cadence, her kind of positioning in the cage, when to expend energy, I think those are some things she can really work on ahead of her next MMA fight.
No, 100%. And just a couple more performances over there from Tuff N Uff that I really wanted to highlight. And it just kind of goes from the feature fight on. Renato Canuto looked,
oh my God,
about as spot on as you could. That arm bar was just so it was such a fuck you. That was such a fuck you arm bar. Just straight up
sitting on top.
He didn't even put his hips into it. That's how I think the commentary talks about it as well. He did that was the biggest fuck you armbar I think I've seen in MMA. And the fact that Luciano tried to armbar him before that, like, and he makes nods to that in the post-fight interview. It's just, it was great. That was a great performance from Renato.
I don't know if I've ever seen a guy coming from pure jiu-jitsu who is as violent as Renato Canuto.
Right.
And I mean,
right?
In the striking, in the clinch, in the wrestling, like he straight up wants to fucking hurt you. And that's and again, I'm not trying to shit on jiu-jitsu guys. As a jiu-jitsu guy myself, I feel like I can identify this, but the aggression is oftentimes was lacking in the sport. And a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys, when they make that switch to MMA, it's getting that dog out in them is typically the hardest part of making that transition. But with Canuto, it looks like he wasn't having enough fun hurting people in jiu-jitsu, and he needed to hurt them more. So that's why he went to MMA. Because, I mean, dude, his elbows, his knees on the ground of the body, I mean, his just the way he enters into his striking combinations on the feet, like he's aggressive. And obviously he can do it without fear of really getting taken down or put on his back, because who's going to put Renato Canuto on his back and actually
on their back, right?
You know, it's like, yeah, that's just not going to be fun. So, yeah, I think he's like really jumped up my radar. It's like without a doubt one of the top MMA prospects to watch entering 2026 and beyond.
And what I like about him too is his striking coach as well. Is same striking coach over there for Cobra team and for a lot of the guys over there at the UFC PI, Mateus Michalcz. He's obviously had a ton of experience coaching guys all the way from Shudo, from Brazil to, I mean, I think he was Jose Aldo's one of his main kind of striking coaches, one of Renan Baral's kind of main striking coaches back in the day. And so if you're working with guys like that, Mateus, he's definitely got a great mind behind the striking. So you could see where a lot of that reflects in Renato's abilities. And I wouldn't doubt, I like if he's able to get 3 or 4 more fights this year, I wouldn't doubt that we maybe see Renato in like Contender Series in the next couple of years. I'm going to be honest, type of guy.
He's the type of guy. I mean, he's 3-0 now. He's the type of guy I can see them giving a shot at 4-0, 5-0, just because of his pedigree and his name value within the jiu-jitsu community, and especially the Brazilian kind of market in general. I think like, and again, he has such a refined style for MMA. You know, there's a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu who, you know, might be very, very good in the gi or very good at leg locks or very good in the guard. You know, it doesn't always translate well to that no gi MMA kind of skill set. But clearly what he does, his submission ability, his ability to get on top, his athleticism, like all those things work for him well in the cage. So I think he's one of the few jiu-jitsu guys I'm like, fuck, it's streamlined. Like,
let's do it. Yeah.
I want to see him fight good guys, because again, right now, the only criticism I have is his level of competition has been pretty dang low in MMA, but you can't complain when he's literally passed every single one with flying colors and made it look as easy as possible, with him doing a variety of different things in all those fights.
100%. He's really the thing I like to always say about MMA. You know, guys always, you know, will say, oh, well, this guy hasn't fought anybody. I'm like, well, if you look at their background and you look at how hard it is to find that guy a fight, like, it's not always, oh, I want this guy. I want this guy. You get what you can take in this game. You know what I'm saying? You have to build your resume off of what is given to you, not what is out there. And it's like going to a buffet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, of course you want the nice stuff. You want the ribeye. You want this. But, hey, the chef's got to cut it up, man. It's going to take 20 minutes. Oh, a guy's out for 20 weeks. You can't fight the number 50 ranked lightweight in the nation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the way that MMA works and the way injuries align, the way that schedules align. It just never seems that we get those type of fights. And I feel like that's like the fights, quote unquote, that regional scene people want. I think it's always so interesting. But going up further in the card, Kai Kamaka gets the win over Michelle Lima. I mean, Kai just looked as good as I know. He looked a little rusty kind of in the beginning, but then, man, he really turned it on. And first person to ever finish Michelle Lima, that straight right down the middle. I mean, he looked electric in that third. I think it was the third. It just looked amazing.
Oh, yeah. There was, 18 seconds left, something like that in the fight when he got the knockout. So, yeah, I mean, really incredible stuff. Only unfortunate thing is he poked Lima in the eye like 20 seconds before he got the finish, which is always rough when a guy gets poked in the eye. He comes back a little soon and then gets knocked out. You're like, oh, that sucks. But all credit to Kai Kamaka. He looked amazing. I mean, he really did. He is a guy who has fought at pretty much every major promotion. He's been to the UFC. He's fought for the PFL. He's fought for Bellator. He's back with Tuff N Uff because that's the closest thing to the UFC right now, and he wants to be back there. And I think at this point, he's other than his fight with Diego Brandao, he's won 3 out of 4, I think, of his last few, and I think he deserves that chance, man. He's still young. He's
31. I mean, it's not like he's like completely out of his prime. Like, people are talking about Kai, and I get the things with Diego because Diego's, I think, little into his late 30s, maybe early 40s.
He's 38 right now, 38 or 39.
So it's like, I understand with guys like that, maybe not wanting to give them the shot, but even then, it's like, dude, how many skilled fighters do we have at these lower weight classes? And we actually get to see them perform. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we don't really get to see that.
They should re-sign Diego Brandao simply so that they could use Conor McGregor's highlight tapes in an actual like pre-broadcast thing. Again, the UFC would love to show Conor again, and Diego fought Conor, so there we go. Sign him back to the UFC.
That's it's like a forgotten fight of like Conor's career.
Seriously,
right there is Diego Brandao.
But I was gonna say though, I said this in to some other people, but why not sign both Diego Brandao and Kai Kamaka and let him rematch in the UFC? I think that's perfect. Like that fight was so good that they had already. Kai Kamaka has won since then. Brandao's on a 3-fight win streak since leaving ACA and his Russian bullshit. Which, by the way, I just want to point out, I always say this with Diego Brandao, but like for those who don't know, with like ACA and that promotion in Russia, they'll sign Brazilians and Americans, but if you go over there and you accept the bag, just know you are going to get fucked in matchmaking and scorecards, because Diego Brandao went 1-7, losing 5 decisions in ACA, fighting the top Russian prospects that they had, and then comes back here, fights for Tuff N Uff again, and then beats Jamie Siraj, Kai Kamaka, and who's the third? You probably have it pulled up right now. Maybe
I will pull it up for you.
I just want to give him full credit because I
feel like I'm like a what's Joe Rogan?
Hey Jamie, pull that up.
Like I'm Jamie. Hey Jamie, pull that up.
Pull it up.
Ironically enough, my brother's name is Jaime, so I kind of
there we go.
As close to Jamie as it can be. Kai Kamaka, Kanan Kauai, and Jamie.
Oh yeah, Kanan Kauai, another tremendous prospect who's very highly touted in the Vegas scene. So again, Diego Brandao deserves to be back in the UFC. It's all he wants. Let him get a couple more paychecks at the end of his career. And Kai Kamaka, as I said, he is again incredibly talented. Has fought the top level his entire career. His only losses have come to really talented fighters, and he looked freaking fantastic, man. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, we would be ashamed of ourselves if we didn't talk about that main event. Habibullah Azizbekov versus Tyshawn Williams. Tyshawn Williams gets the win via TKO, but still, I mean,
that boy was out. I'm calling it a KO.
I was gonna say
open and not there. So
it's like the big debate, like to be or not to be. Is it a KO or not a TKO? Like I always feel people argue on those, and I'm like, I feel like with like how you said KO, it's like if the guy's eyes rolled back, like with Alex Perez, Charles Johnson, I look at that as a KO. As much as people want to say that's a TKO, that's a KO. Charles Johnson was out on his feet for like the last 20 seconds of that fight. That's a KO. No, and we're kind of
if you go face first, that's a KO. I don't care.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I'm not even, and that's not an insult to whoever's in the position of that, but it's just like I don't get why there's such a big argument with this stuff. But still, on I go. Sean gets his 4th KO of his career. Mostly had fought at Shogun fights, but makes his Tuff N Uff return and with a bang after beating Alfred Walker out there last time. I mean, Tyshawn Williams, I was texting you about it. I think him and Shane Collins, 559 fights, 122. Co-main event, line it up.
Yeah.
Line it up. I mean, 7-0 versus 5-0. 29 years old, Tyshawn Williams. He's right on the brink to getting in the UFC.
Pretty sure. Oh, are we back? There we go.
Oh, there he is. There he is.
Pretty sure my boy Shane Collins is 6-0 now after his last fight.
That's what I'm saying. 6-0 versus.
There we go.
Actually, I believe Tyshawn's 8-0. 8-0. Still waiting for Tapology.
There we go. Okay.
Still,
there we go.
Now we got versus 6-0. Not very far off, and both these gentlemen are right on the cusp to possibly entering into the UFC.
And Tyshawn Williams too, fantastic Division I wrestling background as well. So he's got the work ethic, he's got that skill on the ground. And again, it's always impressive to see a wrestler come out and look that smooth on the feet with that much explosive power, because you know that the rest is figured out. He doesn't need that stuff. If the striking is there, he can do everything else. And I think he's, without a doubt, a prospect to watch.
Very, very excited to see what Tyshawn does next, and possibly somebody that could be lined up for the title shot over there against Diego Brandao if everything is said. He's still the champ over there at 145 for Tuff N Uff. So definitely a very, very impressive performance over there from Mr. Tyshawn Williams. Good amount of the card was West Coast. Obviously, I want to kind of start it off here, giving our best regards to Cameron Smotherman. I know he's not necessarily West Coast, but I know he had a little bit of a scary mishap with his weight cut and all that good stuff. So definitely want to send our best wishes over there to Cameron. He was going to be fighting Ricky Tercios, who actually is a California resident, trains over here with Team Alpha Male and company. So it was very unfortunate to see that fight fall out. And it was kind of crazy too. Michael Bisping was like talking about weight cuts and about athletes and all that, and then like just
and not being very nice about them either. He was kind of rude, saying it's their job to make weight, and I don't have any sympathy.
And absolutely crazy about like,
and then he fucking face plants. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Mike, come on. But yeah,
that terrible look from Mike.
Horrible stuff. Hope Cam's okay. Good on the Nevada State Athletic Commission for pulling the fight off. They did not do that in China with Brian Ortega back like 6 months ago. So I just always want to actually give props when they do the right thing and say, no, we're not going to put you in a cage to fight another man, even though he did make weight and all that. So, you know.
Also props to them for pulling the Michael Johnson and Hernandez fight, because with everything going on in the sport and like with Paramount coming in and with all these new fans coming in, I feel like the last thing the UFC needs is like another gambling mishap or for people to think that the fights are rigged. And I get that there was kind of there was a little gloominess around the whole situation.
I think that it was more of an actual injury, and the UFC jumped on the opportunity to say, yes, we're taking care of the gambling stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the lines were affiliated with the injury, but the UFC did not pull the fight because of gambling. I think they took the opportunity to say, we did pull the fight because of gambling, so that they could basically say we're getting out in front of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not to get all like tinfoil hat conspiracy, but
no. I honestly, the thing I'm just happiest about is that it kind of just it keeps the legitimacy in terms of the results, because like, you know, but yeah, no, I definitely think the UFC probably was not so much like, oh my God, there's so much betting line activity going on this. Let's go ahead and stop it. It was probably more so along the lines of, hey, this doesn't really look the best optically. This guy's probably injured. There were just so many factors that were going into it. Speaking about the actual card itself, Adam Fugit took on Ty Miller. Actually got to see Ty Miller come out here at Commerce Casino. I got to bear witness to his only one no contest in his mixed martial arts career. Wow. So I guess I'm part of MMA history, seeing
you're bad luck around Ty Miller. Don't go to another one.
I was going to say, I'm the only no contest for him, and he's the first ever guy to win on UFC Paramount, dude. Like, what type of guy am I? But Josh Hockey gets the win over Denzel Freeman in a largely dominant performance. That was something I did not expect.
Did Freeman land a single strike?
And he didn't land one.
Man, that was about as dominant as they get. I mean,
I don't even know what happened. Like Denzel had to be hurt or something, because it just seemed like right off the first couple of minutes, like, I get Hokett's a good wrestler, but it just seemed like he just gave up the takedown. Like, he didn't even like bother trying to defend it. Like, it was a really weird series of events.
I want to say that, but this is now 2 fights in a row in the UFC that Denzel Freeman has not looked like his quote unquote typical self, you know? And I am just wondering if he is of this level.
I know a big thing for some guys and for some fighters, they always say about making that adjustment to the UFC in terms of just being in front of that many eyes, having the pressure, being able to execute the weight cut along with doing all your media responsibilities. And I mean, it just is such a big jump from going from a regional scene, even fighting at an LFA, you know. I mean, he was the LFA heavyweight champion, but still he's getting nowhere as much media, and probably even more so now that he's fighting a character such as Josh Hokett, who obviously brings a lot of controversy about himself, obviously brings a lot of kind of eyes onto himself. I feel like maybe that could also kind of go into things, because you see Denzel, he's not really a talkative guy. He's not talking a lot of shit. He's not really super big into the media. He's not doing the interviews. He kind of reminds me of like a dad getting into MMA. And I'm not meaning that as like an insult. I mean that as like this dude is not like trying to kill people out there. And I think that kind of like you see that because it just.
I mean, this is a guy who
there.
Wanted to be a WWE wrestler first. He worked for the WWE, and then things didn't work out, and then he shifted back to MMA. So he's, I'm not trying to say anything negative about Denzel Freeman.
No. I mean,
fighter, all that stuff. But and again, just one more thing is his fight was pushed from the Contender Series to the UFC with Marek Bulijo. So this was a situation where he could have had that opportunity to have that kind of bridge fight to prove that he was of UFC caliber, get signed, and then get into the UFC instead of literally they just rescheduled his Contender Series to a UFC card. So again, there's just he's had an interesting and weird UFC career up to this point, and all those things can contribute to less than impressive performances in the cage, which obviously is what he had against Hokit on Saturday.
I always say it depends on the night, man. Any given night, any given Sunday. Night. I mean, look, he beat Steven Asplin, and that's like a huge win. And a feather in his cap. Yeah. Speaking forward, as we go look into the card, Umar Nurmagomedov got I would say, largely uneventful win against Davison Figueiredo at the top of the prelims. Not really too much to write home about. Technically a California resident, as he does train over there with American Kickboxing Academy.
That is true.
Alex Perez. Shout out my guy, Alex Perez. Did not make weight, but my boy made it 2-0 for the 559. Can I get a hallelujah, my brother? Oh, my goodness gracious. I was really happy to see Alex Perez get the win. I get he had the weight mishap issues, but I personally know Alex. I know that he has been somebody that has been largely somebody that's been loyal to the flyweight division. He's fought the top of the top crop, Davison Figueiredo. He's fought Alexandre Pantoja. Obviously not happy that he missed weight for this one, but still, he looked really good out there against Charles.
I was just sad for my boy Charles Johnson because Charles is the first UFC fighter I ever got to interview and speak to from a media perspective, and he's an awesome guy, and obviously
energy is so cool.
Awesome fighter as well. But massive shout out to Alex Perez. That was not what I was expecting, to be completely honest.
I didn't expect it either. I know he has got some good calf kicks, but man, his striking just looks.
He's got good power. He's always had good pop. It's just he just seems like a little hesitant in the past and kind of struggles to put his foot on the gas. But he had no issues with that in this fight. He went at Charles early in the first round, and that's the first time Charles Johnson has ever been finished his entire career. So that's pretty nuts. So my only criticism. Please make weight. Alex Perez has had enough issues with weight and canceled fights and other such things. So, that's kind of just the one thing that it comes down to is like, can he make weight? Can he make it to fight night? If he does, then he will always be competing with the top in the flyweight division. Because, even his fight with Muhammad Bakayev, remember that? He looked so good. He really gave him probably one of his toughest fights in the UFC. So, never been a question of like, is he good enough? It's just like, can he figure out those ancillary things to get him to the cage so that he can actually perform, No,
100%. And he has definitely shot up the rankings with that win over Charles Johnson. I feel like Charles was kind of really making a name for himself in terms of being the only guy to beat the now champion and Joshua Van. And then now you're able to go ahead and knock off the guy that's
is basically champion now because he knocked out Charles Johnson and knocked out Josh Van. So that's like
it's MMA math, dude.
It's MMA math, yeah, exactly.
But no, I just like Charles Johnson too. He's got great marketing, but also got to roll with them over there in Vegas, and his mindset behind MMA and the sport of mixed martial arts is just really something to if you are not a fan of Charles Johnson yet, if not a fan of Alex Perez, go ahead. And honestly, I feel like that whole UFC flyweight division, that's like one of my favorite divisions.
Nobody knocks
like. There's no thank you. Like I hate to say that all the time, bro. Like everybody in the top 15, even Manel Kopp, like as much as
that's my one exception.
He's kind of funny. He's kind of funny, bro. I ain't gonna lie. He kind of makes me laugh sometimes because he just don't give a fuck. Like Manel Kopp's like
you just like when he says fat. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't like that part. I like when he's like I just like that he keeps it. He keeps it 100%, man. He don't give a shit. Like he says it. He says what he wants to say, man. I give him. His
he keeps 100%, and then a couple extra percents in that boob as well.
Yeah, that guy knows. Gyno not looking the best for our boy, but Sean O'Malley, Waldo Cortez Acosta, three Arizonians getting victories on the main card over there. Waldo Cortez Acosta, Sean O'Malley, and Justin Gaethje all getting wins. Waldo Cortez Acosta, one of the weirdest wins I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, I keep saying this to people though. This is not abnormal for Derek Lewis. His entire career has been if he loses his clear path to victory in a fight, he kind of just says, I'll try again next time. Like that's kind of always been his thing. And I also want to give Waldo credit, and just in general, having a good jab can take you so far in mixed martial arts. And if you're a heavyweight, having a good jab can literally take you to the top 5 of the UFC. That's most of what Waldo's game is, and goddamn is he good at it. Because he smacked Lewis in between his eyes about 35 times in 2.5 rounds or 1.5 rounds with that jab. And I genuinely think he broke Lewis's nose. Like I think not like a busted up so he was bleeding, but I mean, you got to think he's got a ton of scar tissue in there. And dude, he was mashing right in between.
He was hitting him really,
and you could see that Lewis, he kept blinking it off. He was like actually flinching after the punch hit him several times. And that last punch that hit him, I think it literally was a combination of he gassed. It was a culmination of power in his face, and then when he got to the ground, it's like the famous Derek Lewis corpse guard doesn't really work when you're getting elbowed in the head.
I was seeing some people saying that he possibly may have tore something in his leg. I was like, I don't know. It looked kind of like he did fall a little weird, but I think it is more.
He was just tired, man.
Exactly. I think he was just so gassed that
he was swinging for the fences and getting hit in the face after every time he missed. And for those, I mean, obviously, as somebody who does train, and for those who don't, you should figure this out. But one of the most exhausting things you can do in fighting is miss punches and kicks. If you're just swinging at air the whole time, there's nothing to absorb that shock. You're literally swinging. Your muscles have to stop the momentum and then reset you. So it's so tiring to just miss. And Waldo was making him miss. There were several, I mean, at least 10 or 12 punches that Derek Lewis swung at him. Where
you're saying that bachata as he's making him miss.
Salsa boy, baby. That's what it's all about.
Saying,
he's got them 9 kids to feed. Also, not sorry.
Hoke calling him out after was like, so I'm just stupid, like, bro, man. Wild.
What are you doing?
Yeah, like how are you gonna be calling out the guy on the main card? But not only that, I feel like Stephen Asplin and him is just the next fight to make.
It needs
like
to
that. It has to be. That's gonna be such a good fight. Like it's kind of Hoke going through the LFA in terms of the sense because he fought Denzel Freeman. Denzel Freeman was LFA heavyweight champion. Obviously, Stephen Asplin had one hell of a fight over there in LFA. I feel like it just only makes sense to go ahead and match these two guys up. They've been talking back and forth on Instagram. It's like, come on, Asplin versus Hoke. It's got to happen.
Just for the sake of our boy Zach, I'm going to get 2 Shogun Fights references in one West Coast MMA show and say Max Jimenez, Hoke's other opponent, fought for Shogun Fights. So, Zach, please tune in and drop a comment if you appreciate the 2 Shogun Fights references. But anyways.
That's 2 4-ounce freedom references in a matter of 40 minutes. I think you should honestly comment just for that alone.
Yeah. But in the co-main, I actually scored this fight for Song Yadong. I don't know about you.
I did too. I scored
I
know it may sound like I'm being biased because I'm from California, Song's from California. But come on.
It was one of those situations where I knew Sean was going to probably win the fight after that 3rd round. I just had a feeling that the scorecards are going to go his way. But if we're talking about quality of work in each of round, I think Song Yadong absolutely did better work in both rounds 1 and 2. Between his striking, his grappling, his wrestling, I think he actually had good ground and pound against the fence when Sean was wrestling up. He was looking explosive. He was looking fast. I mean, yeah, it was he just should have poked him in the eye like he did with Henry, and I think he would have gotten a victory. But I'm just kidding.
But like on some real stuff though, with the Song Yadong fight and with the Sean O'Malley fight, I just feel like it's just such a negative look for the sport overall because I don't know about you, but it really annoyed the fuck out of me. And I hate to use but it really annoyed me when you see Sean on the ground, he's just emoting, doing this. Yeah. Like, bro, you're in MMA. You're getting taken down. Like that shit pisses me off because I feel like as much as we may not think as fans, like it matters to referees and I feel like the referees look at this and are looking at Song and are like, oh, well, do something. You're on top.
Yeah.
But it's like at the same time, Sean isn't doing shit. He's just sitting in guard. So it's like in reality, like Does Sean win that exchange? No. Like, I don't think by the sanctioned rules of unified MMA that Song Yadong lost that fight. And it's crazy to me now that we're having this. It feels like deja vu. It literally feels like we're talking about the Peter Yan fight all over again. And Peter Yan even more evidently won, I feel like, which is insane to me. And I don't know. That fight really did annoy me, especially because Sean just afterwards on the mic saying, "Oh, it feels so good to win again." And it's like, how can you say that after third round, I'll give Sean, but 1 and 2, come on, man. Like, really? Are we watching the same fight here? Like,
yeah, I didn't agree with that one, but
at least a split. Like, if you're going to give Sean the fight, at least give it a split, dude. The fact that that's a unanimous decision in 2026 in mixed martial arts is actually insane to me. Maybe I shouldn't be getting as mad about it, but it just bothers me.
I didn't see the scorecards, but you couldn't unanimously tell me which of the first 2 rounds Sean won, because I don't think he won. Like, if you were to say, watch this fight, give me it to 3 different people and just random people and say, give me 3 29-28 scorecards, find 2 rounds for Sean, they would not come up with the same answers, because it's just there's no, it'd have to be. So again, just from that logic, it was very strange to see all 3 scorecards get scored that way, because I'm like, either 1 or 2 they were close rounds. Like, I'm not saying it was some like Song Yadong blowout, but like, how do you come to the conclusion that, I don't know, whatever.
It is a unanimous decision. I had to recheck that, because I was
only ex-fighters should be judges. Somebody said it the other day. I forget who, but I firmly agree with that sentiment.
No, 100%. I feel like we have so many people that are in the judging sector of MMA that have and I don't mean this as an insult, because I know people that work for sanctioning bodies, but like, I don't feel like you have any business doing it if you've never fought. Like, I get it.
Never painted in my life, then why would I become an art critic? That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't know shit about painting. I'm not going to go out there to some museum and be like, "Hi, I'd like to criticize your artworks and give my opinion." No, because I don't know shit about painting.
Like, I hate to quote him, but it's like Kanye said with Lady Gaga back in the day.
Yeah.
Like Lady Gaga is the leader of the social director of Polaroid. What the fuck does she know about cameras? Like, what the fuck do these referees know about fighting, bro? Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I feel like Herb is still, like, I mean, he has his mistakes, but he's still pretty decent. Like, he has his days. I wouldn't say like I want him at the top of my fights. But like Mark Goddard, like, he's still solid.
Speaking of referees, I want to give a shout out to referee and Air Force veteran Mark Smith, who tore his ACL last night.
Yes, I seen that
in the cage. He got carried out. I did hear it was an ACL injury. Obviously not 100% sure on that source, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, and I hope for him a speedy recovery. Unfortunately, he's one of my favorite refs, and unfortunately,
I was gonna say he's one of the better refs too.
We will probably not be seeing him for 9 to 12 months, because as any athlete, you got to be able to move when you're reffing, and an ACL is not going to be.
And he's older too.
I think he'll be okay. We'll see him back reffing for sure. I don't think he's going to have to.
He's a vet though, so he's going to be good.
He's tough,
but I was just about to say he's a tough guy.
But crazy.
Justin Gaethje though gets the victory against all odds against Paddy Pimblett in a fight that, I mean, had a lot of hardcore MMA fans kind of.
You want to talk about bullshit judging? I had that 5-0 Paddy, and I'm just.
No, but speaking about that, Safford, Arizona resident Justin Gaethje gets the win and is your new UFC interim lightweight champion, and possibly going to be fighting over there at the UFC White House against Ilia Topuria in just a couple of months' time. I think that is possibly the fight to make, if not against Arman Tsarukyan. I would love to see Arman Tsarukyan versus Justin Gaethje, just because I feel like that fight would be a lot more competitive. But
I don't think we see Ilya back for a little while, so I think that's the much more likely fight that we'll get. I think.
Really? You think that they make that before Ilya and Justin?
Well, I think Ilya's got bigger fish to fry than people would like to admit, just with his personal life. And I think
the personal life stuff, yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not accusing him of anything bigger. I just think this is a massive life upheaval, which really affects. And Ilya is the type of guy who's not going to put himself in a situation in which he cannot actively do the best training camp possible and not be the best prepared for a fight. Just knowing how much he cares about his legacy and his greatness, like, he's not going to half-ass a training camp while he's going to court and dealing with bullshit law stuff. Like, he is going to wait until he can 100%. So I think Ilya is more likely to give up the belt and they do a unification or like a undisputed fight with Justin and Arman, and then Ilya comes back next year, than they are to rush Ilya and maybe have him like come back in June against Gaethje, if that makes sense. So again, I think Arman's a much better fight too. I think unfortunately Gaethje loses both of those fights. I wasn't particularly. I was really impressed with the fight itself from like a damn, these guys are scrapping. But if we're talking from like a like state of the lightweight division type thing, it didn't look or feel like a title fight to me.
No, I agree with you. It very much felt like
it was a banger. It was great. Fucking massive respect to Paddy Pimblett. His chin is insane. Massive respect for Justin Gaethje for being 37, 38 after all of his wars and still being able to, put on a performance like that, especially after having staph, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw that post-fight, but absolutely fucking staph infection on his neck. They've been covering it up all week. It's pretty crazy. But, again,
I feel like that's too why you seen he kind of looked a little sluggish out there.
Yeah. Many reasons.
I feel like a lot of people are talking about that.
But yeah, many reasons to be impressed with this fight. But at the end of the day, it was not like these are the two best lightweights in the world. The best two lightweights in the world are probably Arman and Ilya, and unfortunately, neither of them were in the cage in this one. So I hope we find our way to that matchup. But I think either of these guys, whoever won this fight, would probably lose to both Ilya and Arman. So again, I think it just really depends on how the UFC wants to kind of go about matchmaking this, and obviously what Ilya is up to, and how soon is he going to come back from his hiatus, I should say.
Yeah, no, he's got some, like how you said, bigger fish to go ahead and fry outside of the cage, dealing with all the stuff over there. But just speaking a little bit about some other news outside of the sport of mixed martial arts, the Ali Reform Act was officially passed this past week, which may not bode the best for fighters going forward. I kind of want to give you the floor, Dylan. I know you have a lot of experience looking into this stuff, and kind of let you speak a little bit about it, because I feel like as an MMA show, it's only right that we speak about this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously, a lot of big news just going around the sport of MMA and combat sports, with obviously TKO becoming the primary owner of WWE and the UFC, and now Zuffa Boxing. Just obviously that was a couple of years ago now, but all the changes since, with even the lawsuits that the UFC has been facing, the antitrust situation about fighter pay and all that stuff, and now with Paramount obviously being the major new platform for both UFC and Zuffa Boxing, the UFC has made kind of the big stake. It's trying to make the big stake is not just the primary MMA company, but the primary combat sports company, especially with UFC, BJJ, and other such ventures as that. The biggest thing that has been not just stopping the UFC from doing this, but also what separates MMA from boxing and why we tend to see such higher purses in boxing and much different opportunities for boxers is the Muhammad Ali Act, which this was a government bill that was passed. If I'm not mistaken, it was passed in, I believe, 1983. I'm gonna check this.
It was passed in 2000, actually. 2000 It was passed in 2000, introduced in 1999. Originally used to protect boxers from exploitation by preventing conflicts of interest, requiring financial disclosure, and enhancing state boxing commission oversight stemming from issues like promoters having financial interest in fighters and predictable rankings, which is obviously something that we're kind of seeing in the sport of mixed martial arts now, right?
Exactly. So forgive me about that information. Introduced much later. I think the original issues started in the 1980s in New York. Basically, there was a promotion up there that was basically controlling the belts and limiting who had access to the titles, which, if this sounds familiar, this is how every single MMA promotion runs their organizations. They control the rankings, they control the belts, they determine who fights for those belts, who is eligible for the title, and essentially who gets access to the stardom that being the champion holds. So we can see it primarily. We were just talking about Ilya and Arman and Paddy and Justin. The best lightweights aren't actually fighting for the title because the UFC has chosen to ice out Arman Saryukian for whatever reasons, despite him winning fights, despite him having success, despite him being on paper and in the cage probably the best lightweight in the world, bar Ilia Topuria. But the UFC is able to do this because there are no such protections for fighters like the Ali Act in MMA. And that's why boxers are viewed almost more as independent companies themselves as opposed to working for the promoters, is they are able to negotiate their own contracts, their own, dividing of money and purses and all that stuff. And why TKO and, Zuffa Boxing and the UFC, in a sense, wanted to pass the Muhammad Ali Reform Act is to get rid of these protections so that they, with the money and political power that they know they have, can essentially control and start their own belts and basically try to remove the need for things like the WBO, the WBC, the IBO, the IBA, these other sanctioning organizations. And their argument is, oh, it's good. You won't have to pay attention to all these different belts. You'll be able to know who the champion is and who the best is just by looking at the one belt at the top. But at the end of the day, it completely limits opportunities for fighters, boxers to, for one, have their own opportunities to make money. And it allows Zuffa and TKO to completely control that path to the title and in turn set a market cap on what fighters are able to make, essentially. There's a lot of other things within the Muhammad Ali Act in terms of payment per round and boxer protections in terms of healthcare and pensions and insurance. And again, this is about as anti-labor of a bill, or anti-labor of a reform you can have for a bill. Like, there's really nothing good for the fighters in this. And somehow the UFC and Zuffa and TKO and all them have leveraged enough money and political power to get it passed in the House. And now it's basically just waiting on Trump to sign it, with which, again, not making any political statements here, but knowing the UFC and TKO's relationship with the Trump administration, there's pretty much no doubt that this will get signed into law. So this is basically the beginning of TKO's attempt to completely take over boxing as well. And with their support from the Saudis and Turkey al-Sheikh and all of this, foreign money, it's really, this was the last barrier from them completely monopolizing the sport. So I felt like it was just important to put this news out there, to have people know it. I don't have any solutions. It's unfortunately a little bit late at this point to fix this, at least from a regular person perspective. We don't really have much to say in the first place, but yeah, I just hope that, we can see better change in the future, because this is not the greatest place to be for boxers, MMA fighters, or just people in combat sports in general, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think you had the best, as much as it's a dark way to put it, it's you had the best way to put it. It's really just out of fans' hands, and that's kind of the most infuriating thing, I think, is that a lot of fans don't really want this and may not know that they don't want it. But it's kind of like when you get those bills, in the in the yearly elections that you go locally to your, and you don't really quite read the fine print. I feel like that's kind of what a lot of people are seeing with this Ali Reform Act. It's, they're seeing the big wigs saying hey, you're not going to have to pay attention to the rankings as much. You're not going to have to look at 5 different boxing promotions, which I think, as much as that may sound crazy, I do think that is a positive. But it's as much as that's a positive in terms of not having to look at 5 different MMA organizations, there's also a lot of pushbacks and a lot of negatives, a lot of setbacks to it. You know what I'm saying? Just as there is with anything in life. And so I feel like it's one of those things where it's kind of just depends on what you want to watch boxing for. If you want to watch boxing to see who the best in a promotion is, then I feel like you're going to be very okay with kind of what this act presents, because it is kind of, in a sense, making the boxing almost like how it is with UFC and the sport of mixed martial arts. You're going to see that kind of same thing with Zuffa Boxing. I wouldn't doubt within the next 3 to 5 years, you have guys like Virgil Ortiz Jr. going and fighting for Zuffa Boxing. I wouldn't doubt that you go see guys
Jayo Pataya was a huge signing that was just recently announced in the last week to Zuffa Boxing, and he's a little less known within the U.S. area, but in terms of the Oceania, Australia, kind of Southeast Asia region, he's one of the biggest stars they have coming out. So that was a really, really big big shift because I think he was with Top Rank prior. So, there's going to be a lot of changes. And again, it just comes down to who do we want controlling the sport? Do we want control and power in the hands of the fighters and the people who are the active participants in the sport? Or do we want power in the hands of the promoters and the people at the top, the corporate executives? And I know myself, I will always, always, always choose I'll put faith and power in the hands of the fighters and the practitioners of the sport much more than I will corporate executives who are trying to get money out of the sport. So it's unfortunate, but again, I hope that we can see some change in the future.
And as a source of optimism for everybody watching, or just possibly you, the comparison I always like to make is, we're so young into the sport of mixed martial arts is actually insane. If you really look at it, I mean, the NFL was created in the 1920s. They took years and years to get a collective bargaining agreement. We're at what, 19, if we're going by NFL terms, we're in the 1950s at the moment for the UFC. And
we're just switching over from leather helmets.
We're barely like figuring out that like you can throw a pass and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's literally where we're at, which is like, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people to hear that, but that's really what we're at with in terms of the sport of mixed martial arts, in terms of its development. We're so into the weaning phases of, and I get, and the sport has developed so much in the time that it's been. And I think that's kind of why it's like, you really haven't seen any other sport grow the way that mixed martial arts has, because no other sport was born this late into the 20th century. We didn't really see football or baseball or basketball. Like those sports were all created in the 1890s, 1900s. So we didn't get to really see the development of those, like in terms of modern day society. So I find it very interesting. And I hope that maybe as more time passes, we will see some more ramifications and kind of more awakenings from people seeing it.
And one more source of optimism on the MMA side, and something that we can do as fans and something we can know about and talk about and educate ourselves about is the antitrust lawsuits that are currently going through the courts right now against the UFC, such as the Phil Davis or Misha Cirkunov versus Zuffa case, which Misha Cirkunov, if you remember, former UFC fighter, as well as Phil Davis in the PFL now, but former UFC fighter as well. They're essentially suing, saying that the UFC has harmed the market by making exclusive contracts, by not harming their own fighters, but harming fighters outside of the UFC who have chosen not to sign with them because they don't have enough legitimate competition to prove that they are the best in the world. Because Phil Davis, who might be a top 10 light heavyweight in the world rankings right now, is the only one in the top 10 not signed to the UFC. So he can't fight anybody else in the top 10, meaning he can't prove his worth as one of the top fighters, meaning he will never be able to make as much as he could. So essentially, if this lawsuit goes through, it will allow all promotions to bid on fighters and offer them contracts regardless of the timing in their exclusive contracts. So it'll make it so that if you can really go chase the highest bag from a promotion. And if somebody wants to offer Islam Makhachev $8 million to go fight for them instead of the UFC, they can offer that, and he can choose to say, I want to go do that, instead of the UFC having complete control over what he can and can't do in that market. So there is some optimism out there. This is not the end of combat sports or the end of fighters' rights, but these are the type of things that we need to know about, we need to care about, and we need to advocate for while they're happening, so that we don't end up in situations like the Ali Act getting reforms to the point where now, boxers are going to be severely affected because of it.
100%. Couldn't have said it any better myself, my man. But as we look into the upcoming week over here for the sport of mixed martial arts, we got some
enough depressing stuff.
Enough depressing stuff, right? No, I'm just kidding. But A1 Combat 33 going down over there in the lovely Hard Rock, Sacramento. Got Nick Maximoff and Buddy Wallace being the
Buddy Wallace
main event. With Uriah Faber and Francisco Rivera being the actual quote-unquote main event.
It's MMA, right? Match. Oh, it's combat jiu-jitsu. I'm sorry.
Combat jiu-jitsu.
Every time one of Uriah Faber's combat jiu-jitsu matches get announced, the entire world seems to think it's MMA for whatever reason.
By the way, I think A1 Combat is sort of to blame because they always say Uriah Faber returns, and so when you're saying they're returning, I think it kind of like, and I think it's obviously intentional because they want to think that people.
Oh yeah, they got to sell tickets, man. Look,
like, hey, they got to do their thing, man. I respect it.
There are going to be at least a couple hundred people there on Saturday night or Friday night, whenever this event is happening, that are going to expect Uriah Faber to come out with gloves on. And then when he comes out to do combat jiu-jitsu, they're probably going to be pretty disappointed because that's just how it goes. And that's how MMA fans are. But regardless of that, I think the overall card is pretty dang good. We've got some good veterans. We've got some UFC veterans. We've got some prospects on there. I know there's a couple good amateur fighters that you know a little bit more about compared to me, just because I'm not out there on the regional scene. But where do you want to start, my man? What are you looking at on this card?
Nick Maximov, Buddy Wallace, obviously, I feel like is a fight that a lot of people,
fantastic fight.
Regional fight scene fans will probably be keen in on, as Nick Maximov's looking to make his way possibly into the UFC, and Buddy Wallace has kind of been a name that has been atop the regional scene over there at 185 for quite some time. So very excited to go ahead and see those two gentlemen go at it. But also Bruno Souza taking on Dennis Linton over there at 145 pounds. Bruno Souza making his return to the A1 Combat Cage after vacating his championship belt at 135 pounds, kind of being the double champ over there at 145 and 135, decided to vacate and is now back once again.
And for any fans of karate out there, Bruno Souza is probably one of the best practitioners of karate and mixed martial arts that you'll find out there.
Yeah, I mean, he has quite an impressive run over there at Karate Combat as well.
Very good run at Karate Combat, and then also just prior to his MMA career, I mean, obviously he's a black belt, and I think in a couple disciplines he competed in a lot of like full contact karate type events and promotions. So he's one of those kind of like throwback fighters where it's like, damn, this dude is actually like a, you know, traditional martial arts fighter, and then transferred that to the MMA cage. So he's always a fun one just because he's you'll see a lot of unique stuff, fun techniques, really explosive, great kicks.
I believe really Lyoto Machida gave him his black belt.
Yeah, so
very
good lineage right there. Don't forget though, Derek Moneyberg also has a black belt from Lyoto Machida in striking. So
we won't talk about Derek.
We won't talk about Derek.
We won't talk about Derek.
Unless he wants to sponsor the show, then I was
gonna say, unless he wants to give me my black belt, bro. You know what I'm saying? Pay for me to get my black belt.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
We love you, Derek, if you would like to give us some money. But anyways,
hey, if you want to give us some money, shoot a black belt over to me and DSK's way. We ain't gonna complain. But glad to graciously accept. But no, they're
Dennis,
also.
I was gonna say he's taking on Dennis Linton, who is, you know, a good veteran as well. He took on, I believe, it was Juan Archuleta in his last fight. Unfortunately, got knocked out, but had some good wins going into that. And Juan Archuleta is obviously still one of the best bantamweights in the world. So I think, you know, Souza versus Linton is definitely one of the better matchups you can get on the regional scene at this weight class. So definitely got my eye on that one. But sorry,
really excited for that one. No, 100%. I was just about to also make nod to Dennis Linton being on the other side of that matchup. But Jackson Hermauer taking on Jonathan Haynes looks to go ahead and be a matchup of possibly who is going to be rising up the ranks over there at 170 pounds for A1 Combat.
And
Ying is the champion over there right now. So possibly looking at a new contender over there if Jackson Hermauer is able to walk out with the win.
Well, I remember, I think it was right when we first met a couple years ago. I remember asking you, like, who's a California guy, West Coast guy who's really, really good, even just an amateur right now, and you're like, Jackson Hermauer is a stud. You should keep an eye on this guy. And I think how he was maybe 1-0 or 2-0 as an amateur. Now,
yeah,
you know, as a pro, looking to get his fourth professional win. Like that's. So I just want to give you a quick shout out. You had your eye on this guy for a long time. You said he is going to be legit, and I mean, so far we've seen him be nothing but legit. He's got a pretty strong wrestling pedigree as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he's a former Fresno State wrestler, which is now a decent program. But
rest in peace, the Fresno State Bulldogs wrestling program.
By the way, which is absolutely crazy. So they had Jackson Hermauer on that team. They had Adam Kemp, who, fun fact, I don't know how many people know the NCAA's, wrestled Carter Starocci, who's a 5-time national champion, and he took Carter Starocci to like a very close decision. They also had Jace Luchow on that squad, who is Jeremy Luchow's son. And they just had so many. Brandon Betancourt was also a former guest of the show. So many guys that I feel like they should make a 30-30 of that freaking Fresno State wrestling team. Israel Silva, who is now Brandon Moreno's wrestling coach, was the wrestling coach over there, was an assistant coach over there. So just so much ties to like the overall grappling realm, and just like Troy Steiner was the head coach over there. He's now the USA women's wrestling head coach, I believe. So just so many different like branches that ended up going off and kind of going to different ways and from that Fresno State program. And absolutely insane. Anthony Montalvo was also another guy that was possibly looking to go ahead and get on that Fresno State team. But talking a little bit more about the A1 combat card, sorry to get you into the wrestling over there, but Vaktong Chuburidze, Gavin Rice going at it at 170 pounds. Vaktong Chuburidze recently dropping his last bout against Yusuf Esambayev, but definitely somebody that at 170 pounds is, I would like to say, one of the top guys that A1 Combat has seemed to kind of develop over the past couple of years. Another good match about 170, though, is his teammate, St. John Smith, taking on a name that's very known around the West Coast, even though he's from the East Coast, Troy Green.
Mm-hmm. And talking about Troy Green, he and Tuff N Uff, he just finished a couple Tuff N Uff fights over there, and actually linking back to 559 fights, beat Shimon Smatritsky for the welterweight title over there in a main event. Obviously lost his next one, unfortunately, but Troy Green, definitely a guy. Not that 9-5 is a bad record by any means, but you look at his level of competition and you understand why he has maybe more than a few losses on his record than the average, regional prospect. But he's extremely talented, fantastic athlete, powerful striker. And as you mentioned, St. John Smith is a teammate of Peyton Talbot. He is a good fighter in his own right. So that's going to be a really high level matchup in the welterweight division for that.
Making his return after his only career loss to Murali Husanov is St. John Smith over there out of Reno, Nevada. I also kind of wanted to make a little bit of a nod to Urman Doyev and David Mistulov, who were amateurs on the prelims of that A1 Combat card, have had some very, very successful amateur careers up to this point. And David Mistulov has, set the world on fire with his KOs, man.
Yeah. And then also on the main card, we have Carlene Chandler, California staple, taking on Forrest Molinari, who is actually now over here in Arizona. I believe she's from Benicia, California originally, but training over here at the MMA lab, or she was at Fight Ready for a little while. She's bounced around a few gyms down here. I'm not sure where she's at, but she is a former Team USA wrestler, fantastic wrestling skill, super good physical fighter. And her only loss came to none other than our number one female prospect on the West Coast, Jaylene the Natural Robledo, at Ruff here in Arizona. So Forrest Molinari, despite only being 1-1, she's not. You see that 1-1 record? No, yeah, it's funny because you look at the Tapology, no amateur fights, 1-1. You're like, why is she main eventing shows? Like, this is great. But then you actually look a little bit into her. She has a Wikipedia page. She is Team USA all over. So it's like, okay, yeah, this girl, she's got a pedigree. It's almost like Renato Canuto, that same type of thing. It's like when you come from such a high level like that, you get to kind of skip some of the formalities that other MMA fighters have to go through. So, but Carlene Chandler, she's a tough matchup. I know she's 2-3, but again, fought a lot of really, really good fighters over there in California. So, in terms of women's 145, this is one of the better fights you can find on the regional scene.
100%. No, I'm very glad that you mentioned that. And also, too, she has her teammate, Ezekiel Martinez, looking to make his return to the A1 Combat cage as he takes on Desmond Alvarado, another kind of top kind of matchup over there in terms of 125ers. Ezekiel Martinez looking to get back in there after his KO loss to Brandon Betancourt. But also want to kind of give a shout out to my guy, Hector Fajardo, the director of the Combat U program over there for Sacramento State. He's going to be taking on Joe Murphy. I love that he always kind of stays active in the MMA scene. He really likes to stay active, stay present, and really be there not only for his teammates, but also just to go ahead and show love to his Sacramento State students. So I'm pretty sure he'll have all of Combat U out there at the Hard Rock Sacramento if they're legally allowed to get into the building, because some of them are college students, so some may not be over 21. But I think Hard Rock Sacramento lets anybody in. I've always, by the way, found that so silly when MMA events, they don't allow below 18 when they're at casinos, because I feel like it's like, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, we should just let them in. Like, what I'm saying? I get they can't gamble, but like put a blocker off or something, man. I feel like we're just robbing these youngins of being able to watch this violence.
Insert Eric Andre, let me in.
That literally, man. If I was 17 or 18, I would be so heated, man. I would be like, dude, what the heck? Get me in the building.
Hey, nothing would make you want to become a fighter than a prohibited fight and be like, you know what? I'm not just gonna be at the fights. I'm gonna be in the fights when I'm older. Then
maybe that's how we should market it, dude. Maybe we should just market it as like, hey, if you want to get in the building, bro, you gotta fight. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just the way we should market it, man.
Yeah.
But as just kind of a little bit of a waning off of over here from the upcoming fights, we also have Dirty Boxing going down over there in Florida. Obviously not anything to do with the West Coast, but you have Jessica Rose Clark, who will be headlining the card. She is obviously over here from California. She lives in Dublin.
CSA, California
Combat Sports Academy.
I'm sorry, I always get them mixed up with the other gym, California
Mixed Martial Arts.
Yes, I always get.
No, don't worry. It happens all the time to me too.
Yes.
Which is so funny because they're in like complete different sectors. Like, Dublin's in like North Cal and like California MMA's and like the Gardenia area. So it's very funny that I get those mixed up as well.
And I want to give a shout out as well on that Dirty Boxing card. Waldo Cortez Acosta's teammate, somebody I've trained with, and former Chicago Cubs minor league catcher Brian Mancia making his professional debut in Dirty Boxing. He's had a couple of amateur MMA fights. Both of his knockouts, he had in under a minute as an amateur MMA fighter. So this guy's got some heavy hands. He's very scary and very excited to see what he can do in the little gloves with some boxing.
I know everybody talks about the NFL pipeline, but what's up with this MLB pipeline, man? We're seeing more and more guys.
Dude, some of those, Latin American, Caribbean baseball players turned fighters are some scary dudes, man.
Get a Roldis Chapman in there, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to see that left hand, man. That'd be crazy.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, bro, 100 miles per hour from him at left. I'm like, dude. Yeah. Also want to give a shout out Kevin Felipe on the card at middleweight. Recently got a big win over there at Dirty Boxing on the last card, and then now making his return, going to be on the main card once again. I think he kind of found his sport. He's always been somebody that likes to stay active on the feet and just keep the fight up. The fight up standing, and that's exactly what Dirty Boxing is all about.
A1 and West Coast LFA veteran right there, and again, it's kind of cool to see guys with kind of up and down records in MMA find a niche, and obviously he's just had one fight, but he looked fantastic, and I think if he wins this one, he'll definitely start to become one of the main guys for Dirty Boxing in that division because he, he's always been talented, doing great fights, but again, sometimes MMA is just it's not quite that perfect sport for somebody, and I think the Dirty Boxing is a great fit for Kevin Felipe because he's a fun guy to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, it definitely is not short of any entertainment whenever Kevin Felipe is going into the cage. I always like too that he's Brazilian and he goes by El Mexicano. It's always been just always been a funny little nod to me.
Yep.
But Dylan Osman, I think that's it for us over here on the Combat Weekly episode 3. Was there anything you wanted to end off the show with here today? I know that you're always full of lovely words. Anything you want to end off the show with?
Good weekend of fights. We also got Front Street fights coming up in Idaho. Again, another one of those states. Do we count it as West Coast? Do we not? I don't know. But
there's a body of water here, and it's on the Western Hemisphere, and we'll go ahead and ring it in.
I will say just a quick shout out to Front Street Fights. They always hold it at the Pepsi Center in Boise, Idaho. It's an actual hockey arena, and it's like legitimate production, and it's always free on YouTube. So Friday nights, check that out on YouTube. It's going to be at the very least a fun card to watch. I don't know many fighters on it. It's a lot of usually Idaho locals, but yeah, man, that'll be fun for West Coast MMA. And other than that, just stay watching regional prospects, and hopefully we can pop out an interview here soon, whether it's standalone or part of an episode. But I know we've had some issues with schedules getting things booked, but we'll definitely get it all ironed out and get some more people involved. So.
Well, actually, that's what I was going to introduce next. We will have the Bryce de Camargo interview up on the channel over here. It'll be a kind of a collaborative piece between me and the MLH Media YouTube channel, just so all the lovely people on there can congregate over here to the Combat Weekly side of things. But it will be talking to the #1 middleweight in the Western Hemisphere in Bryce de Camargo after his big KO win against Michael Salazar over there at Dan Hendo's fight night. And then, I mean, he has just been lighting the world on fire. He's got privates going with Joe Schilling. He's working with training lab over there with Coach Cal. He's got a great story going over there for him. So really excited for the people to go ahead and see that interview with Dick Camargo. And like how you said, we got some good interviews cooking up solo. Both of us, we got some stuff cooking up over here, guys. So make sure you stay locked in. You subscribe. You go ahead. You follow us on the Instagram at combatweekly.mma. No, but on all seriousness, hope you guys are all having an amazing weekend. Hope everybody had a great UFC first Paramount card experience. Cannot wait until we get to go ahead and hop into the kind of preview. We didn't even get to talk about UFC 325, which is going to be going down over there.
Yeah, that's way too West Coast for us. That's all the way in Australia across the Pacific.
That's almost two left coast.
Two left coast. Yeah, we can't do it.
We can't go there. We can't go there. No, but we will be talking about those results, breaking them down. Yeah. On next Sunday as we record this one, but we cannot wait to have you guys all back here. Michael Hernandez, MLH Media, signing out over here from the lovely state of California.